Welcome. In front of me I have the OPPO Find X5 Pro, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview of this phone. Now, before I actually get started, I'll point out one thing that I just realized with this phone. This is supposedly a brand new device. Now, it's not bought from OPPO directly, it's bought through like some retailer online, but I do urge you to pay attention to little garbage like this. So, you can see that we have the typical sticker, and just to kind of like put that in perspective, this is just kind of how it's supposed to look like. Just a single sticker that you get to cut, right? Now this one is already cut, and it has some kind of other sticker on top of it to try to mimic that it's new. This phone is not new. It's most likely a phone that has been bought by someone and then returned after like the 2 weeks. So, I'm gonna go through this as though it's new, but I have no actual idea what the state of this phone is. So we're gonna see, I guess, on the camera. Anyway, let's just, actually, I don't even want to cut this. I want to kind of peel this off just to be sure that it is cut. And oh, look at that. Behold, it is cut. So there we go. In here, we're gonna be looking at not so new phone apparently. Now, I believe we do have some kind of case included. Yep, there we go. Looks like actually it's a nice case. Thank you. Gonna dump the rest back in here. Under here we are looking at a charger, and ooh, this is an 80-watt charger. Nice. Oh, a dongle. So Type-C to Type-A. That's actually really nice. You can plug in just different peripherals to it. You can plug in a mouse, keyboard, USB storage, stuff like that, and it will all work. So that's actually a nice little inclusion. Gonna pop that back in here. And obviously last thing is the cable. It's a Type-C to Type-A for the charger. And that's it. Now let's move over to the device itself. Now I'm looking if there is any kind of scratches on the display, considering this was open previously. But it looks fine, at least at the first glance. Yeah, there's no scratches that I can find. Let's look at the back too. So it looks all good. So it might have been open, but it doesn't look like it's been used or used much. So yeah, at least that's good. Yep. Okay. So there's no kind of like visible usage that I can spot right here. Anyway, let's just turn it on right now. Now, when I'm holding this device, I have to point out one thing. It sits really nicely in the hand. It has a lot of like rounded corners, as you can see, curved display, and it just sits really nicely in the hand. So yeah. Let's also look at the case right here. Oh, that's kind of nice. So, quickly going through the spec list right here, we are looking at a 6.7-inch display. This is a 1440p display. It's a LTPO too, which basically what that means is a curved display with a whole bunch camera display, and it's a AMOLED with 1 billion colors, 120 Hz refresh rate, and HDR10+. So and obviously the display right here is pretty good. Now it boasts a peak brightness of 1300 nits, so that's also fairly good. Though on a probably environment like this, you're not gonna get the 1300 nits even when you max out the brightness, just because that is partially based on the environment, how bright it is. So you will most likely get the 1300 nits when you're outside in like direct sunlight, and the phone kind of detects how bright the environment is and boasts the higher brightness. And here I will probably get something like 800 nits, which is supposedly like the typical, well, not typical, the higher brightness. 500 nits is apparently the typical brightness. So let's quickly finish this off. And there we go. Now I do have to say the display here looks pretty stunning, which I don't usually care that much for display. I mean, I do care for the display, but to me, AMOLED is just AMOLED. It's not like usually they stand out, but the wallpapers that they chose right here to go with it, and just like the the dark and light backgrounds, they really complement this display really well, and it makes it look really nice. Now the camera isn't really picking it up, so sorry for that. I don't think I can do anything about this to fix it up, but just you have to take my word. It looks really nice in person. The colors are vibrant, but they're not like overdone. The brightness is right now by default really nicely, like a really good level where it's not just literally glowing. It's just lit up, but it makes it all look like really nice. So yeah, hopefully you know what I mean by that. But basically the thing is, display is really good. So anyway, let's move over to the next part of the display, which is, or not the display, the phone, which are usually the cameras. And that's another thing that I think might be good here. Guess I'll see in a second. But it doesn't look like we have trash cameras here, which is a surprise. So we're looking at a 50 megapixel wide sensor, a 13 megapixel telephoto, and 50 megapixel ultra wide. And yeah, it looks like I was correct about that. There is no garbage cameras here. Thank you. Like, genuinely thank you for this. To not considering your user base to be a bunch of morons that just see cameras as a number instead of a quality kind of thing. So I do really appreciate the inclusion of good cameras and not including like some kind of 2 megapixel macro or depth sensor. Just F that. No one wants that. So yeah. So with those cameras, you can obviously expect a 4K footage at 30 and 60. We have a 1080p recording also at 30, 60, and slow motion at 240. And yeah, that's basically all I can say here. Now in front, right here, there we go. Let's see, once you can actually see it. This is a 32 megapixel, also a wide sensor. So cameras here are pretty good. Now, I quickly just open up the camera. I'm not gonna really capture anything like super substantial right here. Obviously, I can not probably, but I can find someone who decided to take this phone as a, for a camera test, and we'll do a way better job at just camera test than I will. I'm just a casual camera user, so my idea of a camera is just if it shoots photos well, I'm happy. I don't care that much for megapixels as long as the photo looks good, and that's all I really want. Now, this is in partnership, as you probably realized, with Hasselblad, which is kind of on the box. So you get the similar kind of treatment as OnePlus with the camera sounds and all that stuff. So after all, OnePlus, OPPO are basically the same company with different names. So that's why we have the same kind of partnership here. Just to get a quick look at this. Obviously, as you can see, it is fairly detailed. It looks pretty nice. It did a little bit of like a blur. It looks natural, so it doesn't have like some weird edges or anything like that. So there we go. Obviously, this is probably a less than ideal photograph to showcase the camera, so sorry for that. That is probably, this camera would be better utilized for a showcase when taken outside, but I'm kind of recording in this environment, so I don't really have the privilege of doing that. So anyway, let's move over to the next part, which is the internal specs. So we have a couple versions of storage and RAM. The base one, the cheapest one, will be the 256 with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now, in all the cases, we are looking at UFS 3.1 storage. So this is one of the fastest storages that you can basically get on Android. So obviously, that's really good. Now, jumping up, I guess, in price, because what you're gonna get is 256 with 12 gigabytes of RAM, so you're getting just more RAM. And then sticking with the same amount of RAM, you can double the storage to half a terabyte, so 512 gigs, while still keeping the 12 gigs of RAM. Personally, I'm pretty sure the 256 8 gigs will be sufficient enough for a majority of the people if you're not planning to record at 4K constantly. At 4K, I would probably recommend to go for like higher storage, just because it will consume more of your storage. And I don't think we don't have expendable storage, so you will need to utilize the built-in storage right here. And obviously you can utilize things like the on-the-go dongle right here, like this one. You just plug it in, and also utilize, let me quickly find this, if I have anything like that. I'm pretty sure I do. Yep, there we go. So this is a good example. So I have a thing like this, though specifically for this, this dongle will be useless because I do have a Type-C on this as well. And this is just a card reader, as you can see. So you can have a SD card right here, plug it in, and move over the whatever like videos or whatever it's taking space on here over to the card and free up some space. Obviously you can use a normal SD card, thumb drive or whatever, and utilize this because it does have just a typical USB port. So you can use almost any kind of like just a drive that you had for probably a decade or so. So that is really nice that they included this. Really appreciate this tiny little thing, but it helps a lot. Now moving on to the last part of internals, we are looking at a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, so basically the newest Snapdragon right now, the best one, and 5000 mAh battery with that, 80 watt charger. And with that 80 watt charger, it is apparently going to charge your device to 50% in 12 minutes. That is the advertised speeds, or we also have a fast wireless charging at a hefty 50 watt charging. And at this point, it kind of becomes comical when you consider the fact that this phone costs below $1,000, and it is arguably as good as basically a Samsung phone, which costs usually like $1,200 nowadays for the flagships, for the good ones, right? So this becomes funny when you consider that the best Samsung phone for sale doesn't even come close in charging speeds. As an example, its processor is their Exynos instead of the Snapdragon. I personally prefer a Snapdragon just because they're usually just better in almost every way over the Exynos all the time. So that's just my preference, and this phone delivers it at a cheaper price tag. Wow, who'd have thought that this is actually possible? And yeah, obviously right here you're gonna get basically a flagship device for less than $1,000. It's close to like 970 bucks. I just rounded up to 1,000. So for $1,000 you're getting a flagship, really good cameras right here, obviously, good display, actually not good, amazing display, fairly nice, nicely built device, really feels nice in hand, with basically everything that you'd expect. Under finger display sensor, super stupid fast wireless charging. I still haven't ever tested the fast wireless charging, how it affects the actual charger. If you ever use wireless charging at like higher rates, it does get warm. I do have one right here, like under the desk, which I believe it only charges at 50, and it gets really toasty sometimes. So I am really curious if I would be charging it at 50 watts, is it becoming like a toaster oven at that point? So yeah, that's kind of what I would like to figure it out, but I can't even run my charger at that speed. So yeah, and obviously the 80 watt just a wired charging is just amazing. It's nothing like, it's not the top of the charging speeds, obviously. I did unbox not too long ago, I think it was Xiaomi 12 Pro, which had a 120 20 charger, watt charger. So yeah, that one was obviously better. Obviously that was also a flagship, so yeah. But yeah, honestly, this phone, really good. And if you're looking for a really decent device, I would probably recommend this. I could recommend for $1,000. It seems to be just a good experience. And additionally, like I said, Xiaomi with their Xiaomi 12 or X12, I think. These phones are also really good and also at a reasonable price for what they offer. So I recommend either looking into this one or the Xiaomi, like I said, depending if you have some kind of preferences. Now, that being said, if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.